Well, good morning, everybody. This is JT from the Village Church. Really excited today. I have a special guest with me today, Sister LaKeisha McKnight. I am excited because we are about to dive into interviewing people that are a part of the Village Church and sharing their testimony and where they're from. I already gave you her name, but I'll let her say her name again and tell me a little bit about yourself and your family.
All right, well, my name is LaKeisha McKnight, and I'm actually originally from New Jersey. I moved down here to Virginia in 2005, and this is after my husband got out of the military. And so I always had a desire really to live close to the beach, and so it so happened that he moved to Virginia, which is where the beach is, so that worked out perfectly. And so I have 2 children. And I always have a story behind that. I promise you, I'm not going to share that right now. But I have 2 wonderful children. I wasn't really supposed to have children, but God allowed that to be so. And so I'm very, very excited about that. Motherhood is just a beautiful thing. And I'm just glad to be here. I mean, whatever God has had me to do, over the last couple of years while being here has just been amazing. And so I find myself here in the village.
All right, so tell the people what you do.
Wow.
I know you can't say it all in a nutshell, but you
Right.
can give a little bit snapshot of what it is.
Okay. Well, primarily what I do is I do a lot of leadership coaching, leadership training, and when given the opportunity, doors open as far as speaking and doing workshops. I also do a lot of that inside of the community. I have 2 companies that I really devote a lot of time to, one of which is a leadership training company, which is the iLead company, and then the other one is a nonprofit organization by the name of Women of Elevation, which focuses on helping women to establish their lifetime, or at least their dream careers, and have the lifestyle that they've always desired.
It's pretty cool.
So, yeah.
My next question has to deal more with how did you come to Christ? Like, what was your experience like?
Okay.
And before you share it, more of, not necessarily more about the location of it, but more about the impact of it and how it affected you at that moment.
Well, God always has me go back to, the fact that I always knew about God, raised, with a grandmom that seemed to have me in church like every single day, right? Bible study, choir rehearsal, everything. It was just back to the second service. So that's what we did, when coming up and growing up. But, because it became more of a ritual, so not necessarily having a relationship with God. And so it didn't really hit home to me until the final year when I was at Penn State University, and I was about to finish up. And a young lady got me connected to a sorority there by the name of Alpha Nu Omega Christian Sorority and Fraternity Incorporated. And so when I got connected to that, it was through this process of connecting with these other young ladies there, and the process that endured me, just really drawing closer to God, that at that point, that's when I became, got a close relationship with God, just not knowing of God, but having a relationship with Him. And at that point, it was like night and day. I remember it, I recall it distinctly, how I had a conversation with my mom, and I said, Mom, I know I had a desire to go to school, be a lawyer, all this stuff. And then after all of this had happened, I began to engage in inspirational readings. I remember the one book I read by Juanita Bynum, read that book, and it was like God spoke to me clearly, even through that book, about the direction He wanted me to go in. So it was at that point that my relationship with God began to strengthen. And it was funny because any type of person that comes to Christ for the first time, depending on what He's called you to do, I felt like anybody that had eye contact with me, they were going to know about Jesus at that point. It was like, oh, okay, how are you? Just start dialogue. So it was over, it was a wrap. Yeah. I remember going into jails and just people on the street, just randomly just talking with them. That's how it was when I first came to Christ. And to a degree now, still doing that today. Just having that connection, that ability to connect and relate. And that's how it's been. Having a relationship with God is like no other relationship. And so from that point of that Christian sorority, it was like the turning point, or as I would say, the Damascus experience for me, that transitioned me from just being this inner city girl to LaKeisha, and this is what He's called me to be.
Pretty dope. So now the other question is, I want to lead up to this because I think it's important. So you receive Christ as your personal Savior, then He changes your life. My next question is, how did you know He wanted you to move into the ministries you're doing? Because you kind of alluded to it a little bit. But.
Yeah. Well, it has a lot to do with my upbringing because I believe that God turns your pain into your passion. And I say this, and then of course your passion into your purpose. He reveals it all through that, simply because, coming up and watching some of the experiences that had endured. For example, having experienced molestation as a child, having witnessed domestic violence with my mom, right? Seeing all this stuff happen, I knew that this was a part of it, and it bothered me. So whenever you feel, when you're going through life and you're serving God, and you become burdened by something, that burden is at the core of your purpose. Sure. And so it allows it to be birthed. So then God turns that mess that you've experienced into your message, and then you're able to go out and really truly serve because you're serving out of that burden. And it's not necessarily be a burden that weakens you, but a burden that propels you forward.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And so from that burden, it kind of led you to saying, okay, I see women who are going through the same thing, and I'm going to go ahead and start pouring into their life and helping them in the direction that God has for them.
Exactly.
So we have 4 core values at the church: love, pray, serve, and share. Pick one, and then tell me why you chose to be at the Village. So pick one core value, and then why you chose it.
Well, as soon as you said it, the one that popped out to me was serve.
Okay, right, gotcha.
Simply because, that's all we do. As a mom, I'm serving my children. As a wife, I'm serving my husband. We serve in all that we do, and we come to be served, just as Christ came to serve, right? Not to be served and to be a ransom for many. And so this is what we're called to do, and I just feel like wherever you can help fill that gap, do it. And then of course, He will allow your gifts to make room for you. Whatever it is He's called you to do, He would allow that to come forward. Nothing, no light is going to be dimmed. It's going to be shown. So, no matter how you put it, and I remember running so many times away from it. You can't run from God. He's everywhere. So just continue to serve. And, and that's just really at the core of who I am, being a servant.
And why the Village?
The Village, well, just as it says, it takes a village to truly grow. No one man is an island. So in order to get you where you're trying to go, you need people. And with the Village, what I come to know is that the teaching is practical. It's nothing better than getting the word and figuring out, man, how does this apply now? How is this relevant right now? And, with you just being yourself and all the leaders just being themselves, it was just perfect. It was just home for me. And of course, my husband was like, oh yeah, he's from New York, cool, that's what's up.
So having that New York thing helped out.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing really spiritual, just, a borough, boroughs.
Right.
City. That's cool. I'll take it. I'll take it. I think one of the things that I love about what you're doing is that not only are you leading women, but you're not negating the family. That's very powerful. Yes. I always say, how do you find a balance? But I really don't think there is any balance. So let me use the word navigate.
Okay.
How do you navigate through that?
How I navigate? Well, the thing is, you have to get them involved. If they're not involved in it, then they feel that they're not valued and that they're not a key part of it. Because if my husband wasn't supportive in the traveling that I do, I'll be home and I'll probably be just sitting there like, oh my gosh, why? But because that's just in me to just do, wherever God wants me to go, that's where I'm gonna go, and He understands that. So when your spouse or your family truly understands the calling on your life, they're not gonna hinder it because they are part of it. When they realize they are major players in it, they're like, man, okay, I gotta allow this to happen. And my kids are my motivation. Because I want them to see that, okay, their mom is doing what God has called her to do, and she's not gonna just start something and not finish it. She's gonna see it to the very end. And that's what God is gonna do in our lives. He's gonna allow us to fulfill our purposes to the very end until He calls us home. So, like I said, there's no balance. At any particular point in time, you do have to devote more time to something than the other. So it's more like an ebb and flow.
Makes
So that's
sense. Makes great sense. So, in closing, if you could encourage women, what would be the one thing that you would say to them?
Speak up, but with humility, because if you're not careful and you're not guarding your heart, you're not guarding what you say, you can be out of order. So What I mean by speak up too is don't be afraid to allow yourself to go out there and fulfill your purpose. Don't sit back in the wing and in the dark and kind of watch everything happen, but take action. Take action. Don't be afraid to get involved. Because every female has a purpose. There wouldn't be these lives in the earth if it wasn't for women, because God made man. He didn't just make male, he made male and female. So when people get it twisted, they say, oh, it's about men. Male and female, one. And that's the way that God has created it to be.
Okay. So I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Really excited about interviewing Miss McKnight. I just like saying McKnight. It just sounds very distinguished and royal. And I want to encourage you guys to remember all the time. Remember to chase your dream, because eventually God will help you to catch it. Have a blessed one.